Ladies and gentlemen, Casey Jacox winning the relationship. Paul Howery, heart-based learning. He's in red shirt. I'm in a blue shoot.
Sorry. Heart-based leading.
Heart-based leading. Close enough.
No,
okay.
Whatever.
Heart-based leading. Okay. So the shirt I'm wearing, it's, hold on. Let's see if we can do this real quick.
Get your camera right.
Give me the keys, Lisa. This is from Weird Science, which unfortunately, you guys, Paul Howery has never watched. And I think he might not be a U.S. citizen. We're going to be having the authorities check his, but he might be illegal right now. So if you never see Paul again, it's because he's not seen Weird Science and they've taken him back to the motherland wherever he belongs.
You couldn't even let me fess up to, I don't even know what the shirt means or anything like that. No, it's just steamroll right over Paul.
Yeah.
Hi, just call me Pavement.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yes, I now have homework and need to watch Weird Science. I get it.
Well, and I think episode 6, which is our last episode, I think you should just give a quick 2-minute review of the movie.
Okay, so basically between now and next week, I have to watch Weird Science.
I think the audience wants to know what you think. I mean, you're like, right? We can't let them down.
Fine. All right.
So let's talk about our pivot. What we had called an audible this morning. What's the audible?
Well, the audible was we were going to shift these last 3 episodes as lives, but not knowing anything and just trying it and having fun. And we did have fun, don't get me wrong. And the people that showed up, thank you so much. It was just quite wonderful. But
the Don Pfeiffer.
Yeah. Especially the Don Pfeiffer, who I love to death and have known for years, who for some reason thinks you're, what is it, Dave Carroll? Is that right?
No. I got confused because I have CTE brain from college. That Dave Carroll introduced us, and I was in my mind because I met you at Dave Carroll's event, Cantalon, and so my mind got crazy. And then he's like, "No, dude," and you just went down a rung in my ladder. How do you not know that Paul introduced us? I was like, "Damn it!" So I dropped and did 20 push-ups, and then he still made me do like 20 more burpees, and he's quite a bully.
For the record, just so you know, he's not a bully out there. He is incredible. He is a like-hearted, win the relationship, not the deal human in sales. Gosh.
What's the topic today?
The topic today is follow-up. And in that, there's a layer that's quite wonderful that if we get it right, we build relationships even when we make mistakes in our follow-up. And I have a massively classic example, one for myself. But it's the element of being vulnerable and actually choosing to be accountable, not being held accountable. That's just coercion, but to really go to the space where, I messed up, and showing up and being accountable to that person that you're there to serve in the sales role.
Yeah, I think that's the most simplistic way to build relationships and erode relationships when you don't follow up. Easy, most simplistic. Thinking about as a friend, when if Paul and I are going to meet at 10:15 and I show up at 10:18 and I don't say anything, that's disrespectful in my mind. I should have said, hey, I should have texted him at 10:12. Hey, I'm going to be late. I'm just on the phone. I'm just trying to finish something up. Vice versa. If you're going to be late to a sales meeting, if you're going to be late to an internal meeting, just take that one extra step and let them know. Set expectations. You show that you value their time. You're not better than them just because you got stuff going on, right? I think we got to remember that when we dial 911, Paul's phone's not ringing, my phone's not ringing. We're not that important. We think we are at times, but we're not.
Wait a minute,
right?
We're not?
But you are the captain's log. But,
today I am captain's log. And for Mohammed out there, Mohammed, yes, it is a Star Trek shirt this time, not a Star Wars and not another type of nerd shirt. It is a Star Trek shirt.
There we go. But I really hope people take that. I know we're kind of joking, but I believe if you do those things every day, that's just micro changes of how you follow up internally or externally, you will see relationships improve over time. I've lived it for 20 years, 25 years, whatever. Think about from a buyer's perspective. If you tell the seller, hey, Casey, now's not a good time. Call me on December 22nd. And if then I follow up to you and say, hey, Paul, it's Casey with winning the relationship. Per our conversation on the 17th, you told me to call you on the 22nd. Is now a good time? I just showed you that I listened and I followed through. I built some trust right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And here's the other thing that comes for, like, say, I'm going to go back to IT days, Paul IT director days. I'm dealing with a whole company, 6 divisions that I got to make sure something's going to work out right. And in the process, I might have, because at that point I was a director, VPs coming at me like crazy, like, I can't get this to happen. I can't get this to happen. And I'm going, I've called the vendor in. I've got help on the way. This is outside of our norm of operations of things that we've ever dealt with. And I'm getting help. And we're supposed to meet at say 12:15, and it's 12:18, and I've already got people screaming at me. And so I'm already, as a customer, going, shit, 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 shit. And it's like, did I get forgotten? And all it would have taken was a text. I'm stuck in traffic. I'll be on site. And even if if the vendor has to pull over to make that text, so they're not running somebody over and doing something crazy while they're on their phone and driving. But to do that can let me know, I can breathe. And it also tells me I matter. So that simple thing, I'll call it pre-follow-up, or it's just follow-up because something's going to go haywire, really does. That's a game changer.
No, I love it. You said something a few minutes ago about vulnerability, which is a favorite word in my vernacular. I believe that leadership is vulnerability plus humility equals leadership. The best leaders I've ever been around are vulnerable enough to say they're wrong or they made a mistake.
Wait a minute. I'm going to do this to you because you made me do it the last time. I want you to say vulnerable 5 times fast because it was hard for you to say that period.
Vulnerable. Sorry, I think my tongue just hurt. But we joked earlier about stories, but I think this is a story that hopefully, if there's any younger, less experienced sellers out there or people in their careers, like I talk about the story in my book of a moment of failure where early in my career, a buyer said, "Hey, Casey, follow up with me on this time." I wasn't organized as I should have been. I didn't follow up. I let the activity go by. When I finally remember, at least I had the stones to apologize. Oh man, Paul, I'm sorry. I didn't follow up when I was supposed to. And then buyer said, "Oh, it's okay, Casey. Thanks for following up." But we actually ended up going with another supplier. And it was just like, just and I remember from that day moment, I'd never let that happen again.
Okay.
And
So what did you do to stop you from having that turn into a paralyzing event to becoming a motivating event? Did you have a support circle? Did you have somebody to talk to? Did you have a principle inside that you went towards? What did you do?
I think it was just, well, 2 things. I don't remember who I spoke to. I definitely think I remember spoke to my boss at the time and owned it. But I think back to, this is not an Uncle Rico moment here, but playing college football, we got coached hard. And when we made mistakes in film room in front of everybody, I couldn't hide. I was the one that threw the interception. I was the one that didn't go through my reads. I was the one. And so you learn just the sooner that you quickly just own it, it goes away much quicker versus, well, I didn't do that because Paul didn't, and because Susie, and just no, own your shit. You messed up. Okay. And I messed up. And so the sooner that I owned it, I just said, hey, I'm not going to beat myself up. And this is where I was, this limitless minds journey I've been talking to you about, and what they talk about, Trevor Moa talks about neutral thinking. Russell Wilson talks about neutral thinking. My whole life, I've done that without knowing I was not, I didn't realize I was doing it. And so, like, as quarterback, we got to stay neutral.
Before you go any further, explain to people the construct of mutual thinking.
Yeah. Well, for me, neutral thinking is, staying neutral. If the negative's going to happen, it's like quickly own it, realize it's not what I want to be, but where I want to go to get to a positive state. Once I realize what positive is, don't get too high, stay neutral. Right? Just like as a seller, I'm going to have really, really big months. I'm going to have really, really shitty months. I'm going to have really, really good days. I'm going to have really, really bad days. In my a time in my business career where we were a part of one of the largest deals in our company history. 3 or 4 months later, one of the largest flops in our company history. Not anything that I personally did. It was more of a customer budget issue. The vice president said, "Casey, man, the day you won this and the day this thing fell apart, you're the same guy." And like that was more of a defining moment and
So,
something I'm
so
real
it's
proud
so
of.
it's keeping that perspective. And by the way, my slip up a moment ago, I thought you said mutual. I'm like, oh, what is that one? Well, you said neutral.
Neutral. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's, I think this is that cool part where you are able to hold a space for yourself so that the fear of the failure doesn't take you out of the game. And also that even if you've succeeded at such a high level, maybe not hitting that same level of success the next time around doesn't become paralyzing. Which is, I mean, that is the cool beauty of going neutral in your thinking that way. It's not to remove those highs and remove those lows, but it's to put yourself in a place to where they don't take you out of the game.
Love it. Yeah, exactly. That's very well said. Very well said. What, as you think about,
So wait, before you go there, because you just talked about that
yeah,
crash. what's what's your best recovery follow-up that you've ever had? In other words, you missed on the follow-up, but then you decide, because the one follows, hey, we went with somebody else. Do you have one where you missed on a follow-up, but then you did the vulnerable, accountable follow-up, and it actually brought the relationship back?
I don't know if that comes to mind, but what comes to mind when you ask that, Paul, is where the whole premise of when the relationship came from. And when I was training and teaching a younger team, when I was opening up a kind of an account team to support our customer in Dallas, this team was so anxious to win every deal. They were so anxious to win every single opportunity. And I said, I love that you're that competitive. You're never going to win every deal, but I expect you to want to win every deal.
Right.
Okay. It might be confusing, but you're never going to do it, but we need to expect that we're going to do it. But then if it doesn't happen, it's okay. However, we still can win people when we lose a deal. And they looked at me like blank stare during the headlights. Yeah. So Paul chooses Don Pfeiffer over me. And now I have a choice. Do I put my tail between my legs? Do I say, oh, this sucks. I'm kind of am scared to follow up with Paul. Or I say, hey, Paul, it's Casey with ABC Company. I'm just calling to check to see how that experience went. I'm hoping that Don's company did everything they say they're going to do. I hope you got great service. In the end, I'm here to be a long-term partner for you. I know I'm not going to help you every single time, but you getting good value from whoever you chose, that's still important to me. Now, if I do that and I follow up before Don's company does, and let's say that Don's company didn't do a good job like he or she said they were going to do, and then they did not follow up, but I followed up before them, the number of times I'd pick up low-hanging fruit deals I didn't think I was trying to get an easy deal. I was just following up because I had a servant's heart and I generally cared about people. And that mindset or that follow through alone allowed me to win relationships over time. And that's really what
Okay,
it's about.
so you just landed in the space of one of my favorite topics, which is how to develop a team OS for your group. And a team OS means you have to put the team first. And this would be like an elite SEAL team or a Ranger team or whatever that special ops, or even it could be a sports team. When the team is first, you lose the that instinct that we all get when somebody's preying on us. Like I just got a LinkedIn connection and it was, hey, blank, 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 here's what I can do for you, which tells me this isn't about me at all. It's about them and what they want to do. And that technically, and it's not danger predator, but it's predator notice instantaneously. When you went, even though they didn't choose you, and you called and you said, I hope things are well, you made the contact, and this is the follow-up even after the loss, you're creating a team OS, and the team OS is oxytocin and serotonin. Their connection with you at that point allows them to get the love connection, oxytocin, and serotonin, the confidence connection. And that's that confidence in the connection with you at that point that actually translates to them going, yeah. And then the next time around, and I think I talk most of the time about this between a small group of people working together to create some really cool achievement. But this takes that and spreads that way out into that from the sales person into as a vendor to the client and makes them a team. And that's where the relationship really happens with that. So you could call that the relationship OS, oxytocin and serotonin, that actually makes them believe that you and them are one. And then later on, like you said, if something goes haywire, or maybe they decide they love you more and they go with you. So but that's what's going on at that point when you actually made that move to go to that lost place and have a heart of service and do it. Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think about like one of my favorite civil rights activists, poets, is the great Maya Angelou. And you know what? One of my favorite quotes is, "It's not what I said, why I said it, but it's how I said it to make you feel when I leave the room, when you leave the voicemail, when you leave the meeting." Like be the Maya Angelou of your company, be the Maya Angelou of your sales force, be the Maya Angelou of your IT department,
be the Maya Angelou for your people you're serving in that mission your company has to make their life better because of that really cool product or service you have.
Yeah, think about the gift you can give people by the follow up, the being present. But you do that consistently. I'd be willing to bet a high number of times at the dinner table that night, the male or female is like, man, this Paul Howery, he's my leader. He makes me feel amazing. He always follows up. He never lets me down. And whenever we leave a meeting, he just makes me feel like inspired and good about it and great. Like,
and even more importantly, when there's a moment there where you have to call somebody out to do it with that service and love, in guidance and correction, and then somebody's like, "Oh man, that must have hurt." Yeah, but it felt good because I knew it was coming from the right place. And I mean, okay, this makes me go into the even bigger space. What's also the best thing about that is then if somebody experiences that, especially in the sales team, because there's always high pressure on the sales team to get to that place. You become a number sometimes and so on. Call out to Larry Levine, bringing that heart in and stuff. And for you in making that happen that way, then somebody gets to go home and instead of being beat down and taking that negative energy to their family, they can take the growth energy, the challenge energy, the support energy, and it just freely flows to their family. And let's talk about life getting better everywhere. Just because of a good level of follow-up.
Small little domino, but we're talking about now. You mentioned the L squared, Larry Levine, the selling from the heart, the famous Dodger fan, Larry Levine.
That's the dude.
Love it. Give him some love. Yeah. I think this is good. I think we hit on some good things that people can leave from. Bring us home. Let's wrap this episode up.
Follow up. Even if you think you sucked, that's the vulnerable place, because I like where you said something earlier. You're a gift. When you go to somebody like that, even when it hasn't worked out or you made a mistake or a circumstance didn't allow it, follow up, because you're going to be creating a real heartfelt space that in the long game is going to help everybody, including yourself and your company out.
Love it. He's Paul Howery. I'm Casey Jacox. This is episode 5. We have one more next week. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Engage with us. I think the more that people interact, I think that's how we get other people learning. We're sharing this message. Really, not as it's common sense stuff we're talking about, but they're going to solve common problems that we all have in our environments, in our workplaces, in our relationships. We will see you next week. But as always, thanks for tuning in to see Two Dudes in T-Shirts. And next week, you will hear Paul Howery give a book report on
yes,
weird science.
Peace out, everybody.